Welcome to another video on smart architectural programming. And today we're going to diverge a little bit from our usual programming video. We're going to talk about how you can code in Python, how you can learn to code in Python and make six figures in a year. So that's going to be our focus in this video, basically. So everybody listens about programming and different languages, so on and so forth. What they don't understand is the path of least resistance is Python. That's the easiest language to learn. It's easiest language to code in, and you can make six figures or more Python if you learn it proper way, basically, and potentially give yourself a runway of 1 year. I mean, if you can dedicate 20, entire your entire time on coding, you can learn it within. You can get good at it rather in Python in 3 to 6 months. But potentially, if you want to keep learn Python on the periphery of whatever you're doing or your job, then it would probably take roughly a year to get yourself to a position where you can actually code professionally. So when we talk of Python, we need to understand that Python is one of the most versatile and in-demand programming. And that means that it is a pathway to a very lucrative career for a lot of people. It has multiple fields that you can specialize in within Python, and it has the flexibility and capability to help you earn six-figure income quite easily. So how can Python, can we learn Python in a way in a year that will lead us to earn a six-figure income? So first of all, we need to understand at the start, you need to spend at least 1 to 3 months learning fundamentals of Python. You need to understand the fundamentals of this language before you can uh, before you can move any further. So you need to spend at least 1 to 3 months understanding and learning fundamentals. How can you learn fundamentals? Take good courses, and I would shamelessly advertise our book and our video series as one of the courses that can teach you not only the fundamentals of Python, lead you towards a professional Python career. You need to understand the fundamentals of Python. What does these fundamentals entail? So, number one, we need to remember we need to understand data types, variables, and operators. Data types, variables, and operators. Those are the things you need to. Number two is something equally as important, which are control structure, which are control structure, which are loops, conditionals. So we'll do control structures. Number three, what else is in Python that we learn in the fundamentals to become good at it? Those are functions and modules. So funcs and mods. Func and mods. So you need to learn these as well. Python. Good at it. Like again, like that's what I'm trying to emphasize here. All of these must be learned if you want to become a professional programmer. And in the fundamentals, you also need to learn object-oriented programming and error handling. So OOP and error handling, basically. So basically, these are the things you need to understand at the fundamental level in 1 to 3 months before you can move any further into programming. So after that, what do we learn next? What is the next thing that we need to learn that would help us become a good programmer? Uh, rather, let's put a pause on that and go back to the previous heading. Where can we learn the fundamentals? As I mentioned, our course is one way you can do it. You can find free resources uh, on the internet. There should be a lot of resources you can use, but with free resources, you need to always remember that you need to manage your time and hold yourself accountable, which is difficult uh, if you're not a very disciplined individual. So with that, let's move on to the next portion. which is the second part on how Python, how you can learn to code Python in a year and make six-figure income. So we need to understand that Python as a language has various high-paying fields. It's not just Python in general that makes no, that's not the case. What makes you money in Python is that it's an easy language with a lot of different specializations. There's data science and machine learning in Python. There's data science and machine learning Python, which are very, very specialized fields and slightly difficult to get into without proper and long-term understanding. So I would recommend spending 1 to 3 months here as well, minimum, basically, specializing. But if you're specializing in something like machine learning, probably take you 6 months on average to get there easily. So this one is probably more like 3 to 6 months, depending on what specialization you do. So there's data science and machine learning, which is going to be a big specialization. Probably going to take you a lot of time. Even in 6 months, you'll probably not be able to learn more than the bare minimum of. So what do we entail in the what could you learn in this particular field? You need to learn pandas, NumPy, and Scikit learn libraries, uh, and to basically get into data science and machine learning. Generally speaking, as an entry level person, you can easily command a salary of 100,000 or more as a machine learning expert or a data scientist. Then we have the second thing, which is more common and with the easier pathway, is web development. So with web development, you can easily and quickly become good in Python because you can learn frameworks like Django, Flask, which allow you to build very, very robust and flexible applications very, very quickly. Uh, and generally speaking, even though this is relatively easier, people here also make six-figure salaries. And potentially, you can learn web development in Python easily between one. So this one is quite easy to learn in between 1 month, but with data science and machine learning, you can uh, it can only be learned at more than it would take more than 3 months, but depending on cases, it can take less than that. But those are exceptional circumstances, and we're not discussing exceptional circumstances here. Then we have another field of specializing in Python that people can go into, which is automation and scripting. So basically, what you need to remember is that companies are looking to automate their processes, right, to a large degree. And uh, with automation, with Python, you can do that. So with basically people who want to get into this field need to remember that automation experts are very, very high in demand because they help streamline business processes. And usually speaking, Python is the most perfect task for language for automation, and that is why businesses are willing to pay a lot of money to hire automation experts. But again, with automation, this is a higher level field. You cannot expect anybody to learn this before uh, for 3 to 6 months. Generally speaking, that's the minimum time frame you need to learn field like automation. And again, like these are things that you need to see, understand, digest, and basically think about on whether where you want to go, what is your situation currently, and do you have enough time, or do you want to get quickly into Python, so on and so forth. So it depends on your circumstances which specialization in Python you should push towards. Um, Other than that, I think lastly it's AI and robotics. Now this field is probably something that I wouldn't recommend anyone watching this video, because unless you've been trained properly, I wouldn't recommend you to focus on AI. It's notoriously difficult to understand how to create AI models, and it involves a lot of mathematics and other theory that just isn't accessible. I mean, it's accessible, but it's just not easy to do that, right? And it's probably going to take 7 to 8 months roundabout to get anywhere close to the beginner level needed. 6 to 8 months is minimum you'll need to get anywhere near in making, in getting an entry level job in AI and robotics. Generally speaking, even if after all of that you're still interested in this, um, you need to remember that it's Python is a critical language for AI engineers, and basically they command a lot more, very high levels of salaries, even in six figures. Now that you understand different types or different things that you need to do, you need to first learn the fundamentals of the language, then you need to focus on the specialization you need to move, right? So after all of that, what is the next important thing that we need to understand basically in regards to uh, learning to code Python and becoming rich through that, or making six figures through that? And now we need to move towards the point where you're going to brush up yourself for getting a job. You have learned the fundamentals, you've specialized in one of those four fields, now you're looking to find a job. So one of the best ways to build up your resume or your portfolio is to basically, uh, number three, basically you need to find open source projects and contribute, open source contributions. That's what you need to do. So as long as you make open source contributions, you build up your resume, and it goes a long way. Open source contributions to help you find a good job, basically, because this open source contribution leads to the next thing in our list, which is quite simply number four, which is build a portfolio. So open source portfolios are much more impressive than normal portfolios. The normal portfolio would be projects that you preferred to do, and open source ones basically are the projects that uh, the community was working on, in which you contributed, and which the community thought was important, right? So with open source contributions, they're always higher up the chain than than just portfolio with a lot of projects. So you probably need to link together doing those projects, because it also shows people you can work in a team, isolated section of the code, and solve problems. So generally speaking, if you're looking at the just portfolio side, you need to they need to see skills in different domains, parts of the job that you're. So a if you want to go machine learning or data science, probably would want to create a machine learning model that might stock prices. Similarly, if you want to go in web development, you might want to create a Django-based app. And similarly, again, if you want to go into automation, you want to go automation scripts for data extraction and other things like that. So these are the things that might make your portfolio look strong. Other than that, you might want to also look into acquiring certifications to give you an edge over other developers, basically. So they're the certifications are something that I'm not that inclined to push, but generally speaking, uh, you know, uh, they're Python Institute certifications that are very Python focused certifications, and then there are other certifications which might not be that focused on Python, but would help you get a great job in the specific field that you want to specialize into. So the Google has a machine learning engineer certification, and Microsoft Azure also has an AI engineer certification. So those certifications are things that you might want to do if you want to get and specialize yourself in in a different in a specific field. Those are certifications that are available to you. Another aspect you need to remember is networking and freelancing. Always go to networking events, talk to people, build relationships, and somebody might just tell you like, "Hey, you've been working on Python. I have a job here." And that opens doors, networking and meeting people, going to meet, so on and so forth. Similarly, at the same time, freelancing platforms like Upwork and Fiverr have completely changed the game in the capacity that you can just sit on your computer and find jobs without meeting people. It's an ideal thing for introvert people. You need to network. You need to talk to other people. You just need to sit behind your computer, find a contract, do that contract, and get paid. That's another aspect to programming, that you can go the traditional route through networking events, or you can go to the new route, which is more so freelance work. And before we wrap this up, a couple of important things. We need to remember that whenever you're applying for jobs, you always negotiate your salary. Research industry standards on what you need to make, and then use those standards to negotiate to get a fair basis of compensation with your basically. Also remember that remote and international opportunities, especially for people outside the US, there are a lot of remote opportunities available, for people to work remotely if they are good at Python. Basically, for example, you can live in a low-income country like, let's say, Mexico, or you can live in a country where US dollars have a very high buying power, again like Mexico, and you can make your salary in US dollars, which would ideal position to be in, even as a US citizen for that matter. You also need to remember that you can also need to keep yourself updated, stay updated regardless of whether you have a job or not, because technology constantly changes. uh, Technology changes, and if you can't change or update your knowledge, then you would not be competitive enough, or you won't have the ability to work in your field for much longer. So always update your knowledge when you're working in a technology field, even in this case. So basically, this is the roadmap of how you can potentially make more than six figures in a year if you start learning to code in Python, basically. So with that, we're going to wrap this video up. If you got any value from this video, please give us a like and subscribe to our channel. And if you have any questions, any queries, let us know in the comments, and we'll see you in our next video. Thank you.